I'm Joe Federman, the AP's news director for Israel and the Palestinian territories, and we are now 1 month into the latest war between Israel and the Hamas militant group, with no end in sight. The fighting erupted early in the morning of October 7th, a Saturday morning, when Hamas sent several thousand of its fighters across the border in an unprecedented raid. These fighters attacked Israeli military bases, farming villages, even a music festival, killing over 1,400 people and taking another 240 people hostage back into Gaza. Israel had never experienced an attack like this in its 75-year history. Now, the Israelis responded very quickly with a campaign of airstrikes, carrying out hundreds, even thousands of airstrikes throughout the territory. And over the past week and a half, Israel has followed this up with a ground campaign. It says its goal is to destroy the Hamas militant group. Now, this campaign, as the troops move forward, has caused heavy damage, heavy casualties, over 10,000 dead on the Palestinian side. Again, this is by far the highest number of Palestinian casualties we've ever seen in any round of fighting between Israel and the Palestinians, with no signs of the fighting slowing down. Now, as Israel has moved deeper and deeper into Gaza City, or toward Gaza City, roughly half of the territory's population, over 1 million people, have been displaced from their homes. Many people are heading south to escape the fighting into an area that Israel says is supposed to be safer. That has not always been the case. The airstrikes have been throughout Gaza, and we have seen mass casualty events throughout the territory, but most of that fighting remains focused in the northern part. Israel says this is where Hamas is headquartered, especially in Gaza City, and it is expected in the coming days and the coming weeks to focus its efforts on attacking what it says is Hamas positions, Hamas infrastructure, in Gaza City, above Gaza City, and also below in a system of tunnels that Hamas uses to move around its fighters and supplies. Now, this offensive has caused a very dire humanitarian situation in Gaza. With so many people displaced, people are they're crowding in overcrowded shelters, they're staying with relatives, there are shortages of key supplies, food, water, medicines. Now, Israel has been working with Egypt, which also neighbors Gaza, to allow some humanitarian supplies in, and we see that flow increasing over the past few days, but rescue workers, hospital officials say there is nowhere near enough, so that situation remains precarious. Now, the Israeli side, a completely different reality. You hear very little in Israel about the situation in Gaza. The country remains focused almost entirely on what happened on October 7th. If you flip on the news stations, if you go outside, all you hear is discussion about October 7th. You hear stories of victimhood. You hear stories of heroics, battlefield heroics, rescue workers, people saving victims, and more than anything, a national obsession with the fate of these hostages. The country really has rallied behind the families of the 240 hostages still in Hamas captivity, with really no sign for when or if they will even be released to safety. So far, Hamas has released 4 hostages. A 5th was rescued by Israeli troops, but for the most part, these hostages are believed to be spread out, hidden underground, and it's not clear how Israel can rescue them. This is going to be a big issue in resolving this war. Israel wants a return of all of the hostages before it's even willing to talk about a ceasefire. Now, there are diplomatic efforts underway. The U.S. has sent Secretary of State Antony Blinken to the region several times. He's been consulting with the Israelis. He's been consulting with Arab partners as well. But those efforts do not seem to be making any progress right now. Right now, the focus is just on pauses in the fighting, humanitarian aid, and none of the big issues that really have to be looked at. So the fighting looks like it is going to continue for some time. Israel is pressing ahead. It is resisting any calls for a ceasefire. So fighting will continue for some time. And the bigger questions, when will the fighting end? And what happens to Gaza and what happens to the people of Gaza when this fighting ends, remain big questions and unanswered for the time being.